All right, welcome to episode 140 of Convos in the Pedicab. We're back with my friend Brandon Keys, also known as Green Candle Investments. He has a very popular YouTube channel, interviews a lot of really important people in the financial industry, specifically in Bitcoin. Before we get started, though, we got to give a shout out to our sponsors. Have you been leaving your house outside again? Texas weather can wreak havoc on your home, especially your roof. And if you haven't had it inspected lately, chances are that outside elements could be making their way inside your home. Trust Balcones Roofing and Remodeling to perform a thorough roof inspection and offer long-lasting solutions. They are the only 5-star rated roofer in Austin who specialize in installing the impact-resistant F-Wave Revia and back all roof replacements with a $20,000 guarantee. To schedule a roof inspection, call 512-937-8805 or visit balconesroofsaustin.com. All right.
Alrighty then. Thanks for having me on again, man. 140, damn! Look at you, man.
I know. Well, I'm just trying. We're leveling up a little bit. It's a grind and it's consistent, and I'm grateful that people still want to come out and talk to me in this crazy heat on this tricycle.
Bro, I'm fucking sweating my ass off right now, so I hear that, man.
Knowing that YouTube is deliberately algorithmically shadow banning me because I have some really interesting guests and we talk about a lot of cool stuff and I should have a lot more of a higher view count. So the fact that people still come out and try to talk to me is pretty cool, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the fact that I have a great producer like Gary who is willing to record me at an affordable price because I ride a tricycle for a living. So
yeah,
it's
shout out
cool.
Gary.
Shout out Gary, baby.
Yeah.
Shout out Gary. And shout out Carl for the sponsorship money.
Yeah, shout out Carl.
Shout out Carl. I actually got to I need to talk to him
Oh.
see what's up. But yeah,
Well,
Carl is the man. Carl is the man. We love Carl.
Carl, he's calling you soon. Don't worry about it, dude. He's just been busy riding the bike in the heat.
And this freaking heat is not out of control. We need some climate change lockdowns and CBDC.
I know, dude. I'm gonna be pit sweating this whole time, dude.
Bro, how's the conference?
It's good. So yeah, for those who don't know, I'm in town again for BitBlock Boom. It's a Bitcoin conference, so it's going well. It's like I don't know. I was here on Monday night, so it's Friday. I've been here doing some stuff at Pleb Lab. So shout out to Pleb Lab. They're a sponsor of my show, so shameless plug. But they're on East 6 if you're in Austin, and they're a lot of great stuff. They got a hacker space, so they're building a lot of cool products in the Bitcoin space. So I got a
cool company. That Zaprite is out of Pleb Lab, and they're gonna revolutionize payments. I gotta get that guy on.
Parker
John.
Lewis?
No, John.
Oh, John.
Yeah. Parker's not from Zaprite.
Well, so Parker and Will Cole, who used to be at Unchained, just moved to Zaprite full time.
Wait,
so
Parker did or just
Parker and Will?
Wait, they both at what?
Yeah, so they both left Unchained. I don't know why they left Unchained, but I had talked to them both actually on my YouTube channel. So check out my YouTube channel, Green Candle. But yeah, they both left, and basically I was like kind of asking them because, it's like an interesting time right now where it's like Bitcoin is in a bear market, and Unchained is a custodial solution, kind of like multi-sig. They allow you guys to like hold your keys and help you hold it in cold storage if that's something that you want to do.
And they're very good about it. They're very helpful about
yeah
how to do it, and they hold your hand through the process.
Exactly. So they do a lot of great stuff, and they're like a pretty established company now, especially like in Austin. They have like a big office here and everything,
and they host all the meetups.
Yeah, so I was like kind of wondering like why they left, like especially like right now, because it's like kind of an uncertain economic time, which I'm sure we'll dive into. But like to go there to like more of a startup route was kind of interesting. And Parker's kind of like, at first he was like, essentially the first step is to get comfortable enough with Bitcoin and then have like a cold storage solution. But the next step is more of like the payment rails kind of thing. And if you want to get paid in Bitcoin, there's really not a good solution out there right now. You could either get paid in you can do it because you're like self-employed, but like if you're trying to get paid in Bitcoin for like a blog, or Parker's writing a book called Gradually Then Suddenly, and he wants to allow you to have it on like anywhere you can like read a chapter. You can pay per chapter using Zaprite, and you can pay for it like kind of using Lightning to do that.
Oh, that's why he's moving to Zaprite, because he has a book and he wants to use this thing to get more people to buy his product using he wants to stack more sats. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, well, and he wants to get paid and he has experience building a startup. So like he was early on in Unchained. So it's not only that, but like his experience is probably valuable to John, who can use his experience of building a Bitcoin company and use his, let's be honest, right? A lot of building a company is like marketing, Parker's got a very big audience as it stands right now.
Huge, yeah, and he talks to like Glenn Alden and all this stuff.
Yeah, so he knows a lot of people in the space. He gets involved with Zapright. All of a sudden, it adds a lot more validity behind what John is doing at Zapright, which he's been doing and building a great product for quite some time. But, Parker kind of putting his claim behind it also helps a lot,
Yeah, that's going to blow it up. That's really good. Good for John because I was using Zapright to send invoices to Pleblab for a little bit. They literally sponsored me for a minute, and it was just totally out of the kindness of their heart because they just liked what I was doing because they were not going to see any financial benefit to this in any capacity.
That's
they
life,
were not
man.
going to see any financial benefit,
Yeah.
at least not in the short term. Maybe like if I keep doing this and I get more attention and more people catch on to what I'm saying and whatnot, and I'm doing something of historical significance, maybe that'll change. But at the time that they were giving me money, they were doing this out of kindness. It was like literal charity, and I was just, so there's always love for that company. For Pleblab.
I know, and they're great over there. So if you guys are like just like kind of getting into Bitcoin and you don't really know what the hell you're doing or going on, like I mean, I'm not just saying this because they're my sponsor. They're like legitimately very helpful. And I know like I've talked to you like on the phone because I'm in Tampa, like normally full time. You have some questions and you're like, I kind of explained it a little bit over the phone, but you're like, I'll just go into Pleblab and they'll help me out.
With my cold card, and it wasn't the Pleblab person that helped me, but there was another guy who goes to the dinners at Meteor. This guy, Matt M. Don on Telegram, was really cool about it.
And then you had
a cold card set up, so I'm pumped about that.
Yeah. Well, then and then you told me Topher helped you out with your Nostr account.
He
too,
did,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Topher helped me with my Nostr account. So this is like such a great place.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on here that's like absolutely awesome. Like a lot of,
I think generally speaking, when you want to having a supportive environment where people want to help you and they love building things is a good way to create a thriving economy in general.
Yeah.
And if you have an entire culture of people that are genuinely trying to build everybody up in the room, because you go to certain offices, even if it's like a startup space, everyone's having a dick measuring contest. It doesn't feel like that at Pleblab. It feels like everyone just wants everybody to succeed there.
Yeah.
And when you're in a place like that, people just start succeeding, and you see a lot of really cool things that start coming out.
100%.
Like, dude, Carr went on Peter McCormick's podcast?
Yeah, he went on What Bitcoin Did.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And, he got the hookup from Odell because Odell, so I don't know if you guys know, I don't know if you know Carr's kind of history, but he, helped Marty and Odell kind of early on in TFTC, which is, another podcast. And so he was, kind of the producer with that. Then he opened up Pleblab with Kyle. And Odell, obviously, is in Nashville, but he came into town and supposedly Odell was Peter McCormick came into town in order to get Odell to kind of get on his podcast or whatever. And Peter McCormick does this thing where he comes into a city and then he records 10 podcasts in a week or something, and then he produces them all.
I want to go on What Bitcoin Did.
I mean, me too, dude. So
cool.
Peter, if you're watching this, dude, hook your boy up. But anyway,
it'll happen time. It'll happen when the
I hope so.
It's supposed to happen.
Yeah, but so Odell kind of made the introduction, and Carr went on his pod. Yeah, so I hope it's really benefits Pleblab because they're building great stuff, but it's also it's a bear market, it's a grind. You got to get people to help support and stuff too, and it's it's an accelerator that's in downtown Austin, Texas, which is not cheap to have an office building and an office space. And then you have a bunch of people who are basically trying to bootstrap themselves and find a way to make it into a Bitcoin company where Bitcoin industry is very young. There's a lot of startups that are coming up but are failing or are trying to look for money and they can't really find money now because money's tighter because the Fed keeps raising interest rates. So I mean it's definitely not an easy environment to do what Pleblab's doing right now, but I think as things are kind of going on, they're getting a lot of momentum, dude.
If you succeed now, you're gonna really be good in the next bull market.
Well, I think
you're gonna be really good, and then I'm pretty impressed. They're super helpful. That guy Nick Thiel helped me out with he helped me out too with my ledger because I was I had an issue with my I got another computer eventually.
Yeah.
Right, but no, I actually did get another computer. I had to get another computer anyway, and I had to get my ledger. There was an issue with my ledger because the balance that it read in an old computer was different than the balance it read in a new computer, and he just helped me kind of set up my ledger. So I thought I was I lost some Bitcoin, or I thought that they were some of I thought my ledger got hacked because it had the balance on my old computer was different from the balance on my new computer, but he told me that it was just because it just didn't read the the ledger just misread your transaction because we went through every single transaction. He's like, no, dude, you're good.
Yeah. I mean, I had something
and that's
similar.
cool. Like the fact that he did that, the fact that he did that and helped me set my ledger up before I got with like Unchained. That's cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, they're all super helpful. I had kind of some similar issues with my ledger too, so I don't know. It's always been like it was kind of weird because like they always require you to like. I mean, I had to sell some Bitcoin because something happened with my car, and I don't know, when I was trying to transfer it from like cold storage to like Cash App so I could get it into like my bank account to pay for whatever it was with my car, it made error. It like said it left my Bitcoin wallet and then it just didn't come back. And I was like, this is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of fucked up. But I went through some end-around way, and it took me a while to figure it out myself. But, I mean, luckily I was able to, like, recover that. But, like, it was kind of scary. Like, I thought I almost lost, like, 10 million sats just, like, from, like, transferring because of Ledger. Like, I thought, like, you know how Ledger had that, like, breakdown where it was, like, the firmware required.
I haven't updated anything since then because I have a little bit on Ledger, but like I haven't updated anything on Ledger.
Yeah, I know. That's
ever since I was like, yeah, I'm kind of good with where it's at, and like once Bitcoin gets to a certain price, I'm probably gonna fiat out of that. I'm gonna take whatever's off the Ledger.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do, but I needed to sell some, and then they were like, you need to update it in order to sell, or to move it, basically.
Okay, fine, then update it and never use it again. What's the problem?
Yeah, I know. That's what I did. That's what I did eventually, but at first it was like I
don't want to update it until I have to. Until the only time I'm going to update something like that, in my opinion, is just if I have to move.
Yeah, I know.
If I have to move it.
And that was the thing, is I had it in cold storage for so long, I needed to do like 3 or 4 updates, so it was kind of annoying. But
that's annoying.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing about Unchained is they do key checks, so you have to keep updating.
Yeah.
Or you could go on your computer and it'll tell you to update. You don't have to plug the Ledger in. If you just click on the button, it'll still tell you to update.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's the good and the bad thing about Bitcoin now is like there's like a lot of like complicated things that you have to like take responsibility about, but that's like also, you know, the part of it, right? It's the personal responsibility. It's not like you can kind of just put your money in a bank account and then just forget about it. Like you have to, like, it's good to kind of check on it, because like, I mean, I could go on my app.
Dude, it's kind of scary though. Like it is scary when you think it is like actually 100%. Scary.
Well, I mean, that's what I think intimidates a lot of people to get into cold storage, because like, I mean, that's what intimidated my parents, is like, wait, if I forget this 12
it's even scarier to have it on an exchange because there's no FDIC or anything with this stuff.
Yeah, but people don't realize that when you first buy it on an exchange.
Yeah, and then once a couple of exchanges collapse, nobody wants to trust Bitcoin anymore, just like FTX.
100%.
And then either A, people just choose the CBDC, they choose the WorldCoin to get their eyeball scanned, or BlackRock buys up all the Bitcoin, and then these big financial asset managers have even more of a monopoly on your day-to-day life. So it's something that, you know, you just kind of have to do. Or if you understand why this thing is valuable, you don't want it on an exchange. The only stuff you want on an exchange is stuff that you're trying to sell because you got to improve your life.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, that's like 100% nailing it on the head, right? I mean, but like, I don't know, the arguments about Bitcoin, I was talking about this on the conference too. It's like the arguments about Bitcoin being manipulated is such like a farce, because like people don't realize like 90% of the like investable assets is owned by like 10% of people or something, or like, I don't know, something like crazy like that. Like BlackRock owns like basically like BlackRock and Vanguard essentially own like 90% of the stock market and like real estate as it stands.
And they don't own 90% of the Bitcoin. So it's one of those things where it's like, you're really worried about market manipulation.
Yeah,
maybe why are you stocking up on Apple shares?
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy when you think.
Yeah,
about
but I mean, are you worried about the BlackRock, like the Bitcoin ETF? Because low key, I'm like kind of worried about that, because like that's how like a lot of normies are going to get into it, whether it's like retirement money. Like, I mean, think about it, like 401ks, pension plans, like all those kind of things. They're going to need some sort of, I guess, way to invest in Bitcoin if they want to, right?
And I mean, hold up. What is a Bitcoin ETF? What is going to be in the Bitcoin ETF? Or
so
wait,
like,
let's backtrack.
Okay.
For those of us who wear a mask alone in their car, what is an ETF?
So an ETF is just like an exchange, or is exchange traded fund?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's essentially like, usually it's like a basket of stocks or something like that.
That's related to a sector.
Yeah, that's related to a sector. So you could get an ETF of, well, like the most well-known ones are like basically S&P 500 and like the NASDAQ.
That's an ETF. You can also get like the ARK funds.
Yeah, you could also
ETFs.
get the ARK funds. You could also get them on oil and gas. You can get them on
pharmaceuticals.
You can do
electric vehicles. You can get them on everything.
Yeah, essentially there's like, and I mean like there's people that have like the reverse Cramer ETF. So like Jim Cramer.
Could you actually buy like that on TD Ameritrade?
Yeah, there's like a, well, as long as like a hedge fund wants to put on an ETF, they just have to get it approved. So they could call it whatever the hell they want.
So has the SEC actually approved an inverse Cramer?
Yeah, I interviewed.
The SEC approved this.
I have a guy that.
But they won't approve a Bitcoin ETF. But they will approve an inverse Cramer meme.
Yeah,
ETF.
I had a guy on my podcast who works at a hedge fund
show.
who has that ETF. Yeah, so he manages that. I think he like, I don't know. I think I recently saw him tweet about like he's like taking it down or something because it hasn't been doing well. But like,
well, yeah, of course it hasn't, because once these things get popular is when it's time to sell. Anytime an asset becomes popularized in the mainstream, that's when you get rid of the asset.
Yeah, and I mean like I've had guys on my like there's popular guys on Twitter like George Noble. He basically made his name being really famous on Twitter, basically going on Spaces saying how like all these tech, like Tesla, basically he's like the big short Tesla guy on Twitter, and he would have all these Spaces, all of these people come on. So he started an ETF of like basically shorting all of Cathie Wood's stocks essentially. And ever since it's opened, it was down like 80% because it's just gotten like, since he opened it, like tech has been doing pretty well this year actually. And so I saw like the ETF isn't even open for a full year, and he's already shutting it down because of how much it's getting absolutely fucking shit-housed. But anyway, ETF, regardless, is about like, you know, a bunch of basket of goods, and like anybody that has, I believe, some sort of like license where you can manage people's money, you can create one of these things. So BlackRock's creating an ETF that essentially they would hold Bitcoin for you. But the interesting part of what this whole like filing has said is that BlackRock could essentially define what Bitcoin is. So
what? Yeah,
so essentially they could say like, hey, you know, BlackRock's a major holder of Bitcoin. Well, they want to make a fork in the Bitcoin code, and they want to make Bitcoin like a Bitcoin Cash, for example, or something else, where it's like it's not exactly Bitcoin, but because they're putting so much, you know, normies are putting so much money into it, they don't really know exactly that they're getting, you know, Bitcoin as it is, right, from like the direct blockchain. They know that Bitcoin, you know, they're getting it as an ETF, which, you know, it's regulated by the SEC. So theoretically, as long as BlackRock says they're buying, you know, 1 Bitcoin for you or whatever it is, they should be doing that.
But okay, hold on a second.
Okay.
So if BlackRock's buying a Bitcoin for you, are you going to be able to have the option to move the Bitcoin to cold storage?
Never. Not as an ETF. Because like as an ETF, right? So think about it. So on Cash App as it stands right now,
I can move Bitcoin back and forth.
You can move Bitcoin back and forth. You can even move stocks back and forth on Cash App. So if you buy an Apple stock and you're like, hey, I don't really like that my stock's on Cash App. I want to move it to Robinhood. I want to move it to my Charles Schwab investing account.
You can do that?
You can do that.
I did not know that. That's actually really cool.
You can do that on Cash App, which I think is honestly one of the cooler, like underrated features that Cash App has.
That actually is one of the cool. That is really cool.
Yeah, so that's why I tell people, I mean, I don't know, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I don't earn anything from it.
I like Cash App as a company a lot.
Yeah, I think like what they're doing is like almost like brilliant. It's like
I don't put my Venmo QR code. I put my Bitcoin QR code and my Cash App QR code next to it. And they're like, people will ask if I have Venmo. I say, oh yeah, I do have Venmo. There's just not enough space for the QR codes, but here's my Venmo.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I would probably do the same thing because I'd rather do it on Cash App.
Cash App is it's such an underutilized company.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the UI and everything, and like the utilization of like being able to move things on and off of it. I think that just like proves how much they feel like strongly about their product, because they're like, all right, if you don't like our user interface, you don't like what we're doing, you can leave.
So with this BlackRock ETF, right?
Yeah.
They could define anything as being a Bitcoin. So they could define stable coins as being Bitcoin theoretically. Like they could say, hey, we're buying we're gonna buy 10 Bitcoin, but really they buy like 3 Bitcoin, 100 Bitcoin caches, and then they will buy then they'll put the rest in USDC or Tether as an insurance policy. Okay, so then
let's back up a second.
So
because it hasn't gotten approved yet.
If that does, as it stands, that's what would happen.
Yes.
What would that do to the price?
So I mean, it's like it's
and,
like
and also, sorry if I'm interrupting you.
No.
What would it do? It's not like it's going to change the code or anything like that, or any.
No, I mean you can't.
Yeah, Bitcoin's still Bitcoin. Like BlackRock isn't running enough nodes to be able to change the code anyway.
They'll never be able to do that, right?
So Bitcoin's still going to be Bitcoin.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like basically like why, like in my eyes, it's like why would you pay a premium? Like it's like why would you pay? I don't know. They're probably going to take 1%, maybe 25 basis points, something along those lines, every time you buy this ETF, right? Whatever they price it at. And it's so like, why would you buy this much, or why would you buy it at a premium to have somebody hold it for you where you can't have access to your actual Bitcoin? And the only reasoning I could see behind it is like, okay, maybe in wherever you're at, there's not accessibility to Bitcoin in whatever kind of fund you're doing, whether it's pension funds, whether it's retirement funds, those kind of things. That's the only argument I can see for it. And then like basically, family offices or like hedge funds, like they're going to be, the big guys are going to be the ones putting their money into it because, essentially, theoretically, like a BlackRock has to go under and they have to like, be regulated by the SEC. So those regulations would check that they're buying Bitcoin, but I don't think the SEC is as sophisticated enough in order to check.
Well, Gary Gensler, he gets a lot of hate, but he is pretty knowledgeable about that.
Yeah,
type.
but
he
you
did
think
teach a class on this
no,
at
100%.
MIT.
But do you think Gary Gensler's going to go and check BlackRock's wallet to make sure that like every quarter?
No, he's kind of like a snake oil. He's kind of like a snake oil salesman a little bit. He's a little sleazy and like weasel-like,
Yeah.
But so the gold ETF. What is in the gold ETF? Because it's not just physical gold.
No, it's also, I believe it's like also
mining
like
stocks,
gold miners. But I mean, it depends what gold ETF you look at, right?
Spider gold.
Yeah.
So Spider gold, like what's in the Spider gold ETF? It's like gold miners,
and then I think like I don't want to say it's not just gold. I want to say like maybe some other like precious metal dealers too are in that ETF.
So then a Bitcoin ETF, I was thinking would just have like physical Bitcoin, Riot Blockchain, MicroStrategy, and then they put Coinbase in the ETF also.
I don't think that they're going to do that. I think that they're just going to do it as like because it's a spot ETF. So the spot ETF is a little bit different than an actual ETF where like
so the gold ETF is not a spot ETF.
No.
Okay.
But a gold spot ETF would basically be like an exchange traded fund that's based on the gold spot price, which is essentially the exchange rate between gold and US dollars. So the same thing would be for Bitcoin, right? It would be a spot ETF, which is a big delineation because, like
so
you
you're
said,
just buying paper Bitcoin.
Theoretically, yes, or theoretically, no, because the SEC has to regulate that. So the SEC has to make sure that what's its name? that BlackRock is actually buying that gold or buying that Bitcoin.
And
but
totally
I mean, there's
trust
like
them to do, and we totally trust them to act in the interest of
their
of what's correct and morally ethical. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying like don't buy the BlackRock ETF. Obviously, not financial advice, but
not financial advice.
But I would say like if you're gonna get into Bitcoin, like why wouldn't you just buy it on something like Unchained or buy it on something like Cash App or something like that where you could directly move it into cold storage if you want, because that's like basically the big benefit of Bitcoin. And that's like, why I think like that's why, you and I believe in Bitcoin is because like nobody else can kind of take control of that.
It's also a lot harder to manipulate the price if BlackRock makes an ETF compared to like gold, the price manipulation of gold, because you can audit all of the blocks. Yeah. There's no way that you can audit the amount of gold that is in a central bank vault, but you can just literally go on a computer and audit the blocks and how everything is moving. So you'd be able to see if price manipulation were taking place a lot more easy. And you also have a free and open internet, and you have a lot of really smart people in the Bitcoin space that can catch on to bullshit very fast.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you would be able to the one caveat with this is you would need to know BlackRock's wallet. And like if BlackRock was smart, they wouldn't keep all of their eggs in one wallet, basically all their Bitcoin in one wallet. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't.
Well, I've been hearing stories about there's a wallet that's been quietly accumulating $3 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that is true. That is true, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see how that ends up turning out. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that's BlackRock though either. I think BlackRock already has Bitcoin and they just don't want to like talk about it and then like, because I mean, like let's face it, right? I'm in Tampa.
Yeah.
Like within the past year, BlackRock has been scooping up a lot of commercial real estate in downtown Tampa, and like that's not a secret. Like they have like BlackRock construction trucks. Like Bill Gates just bought up a full street in downtown Tampa called Water Street, and he basically like he bought it up with another partner, and then that other partner just dropped off. So now Bill Gates owns this basically street full of nice like luxurious restaurants and apartment complexes all in downtown.
So all the small businesses, all the restaurants that you think are small businesses are just owned by Bill Gates now?
Well, I think they're owned by people, but who owns the building is Bill Gates.
Oh,
so
God.
he can control who goes in and out of those buildings, or in and out of those storefronts, right?
It's gross.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't like. There's not a steakhouse down there. You can't get oysters. You can get some good food, but there's like Mediterranean. There's a lot of seafood places.
You're gonna have gourmet crickets popping up.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Who knows, dude? Who knows? I mean, it's like one of those things. Like
you have to put mRNA vaccines in the dinner in order to even be able to rent the space.
Maybe, dude. I mean, like that's the scary part. Is like we're talking about all these things, and it's like BlackRock, Vanguard, all these companies. They're scooping up a bunch of shit, dude. And like, if they have so much fucking money that the amount of Bitcoin that's on there, that's on exchanges right now, they could theoretically, if they wanted to, like scoop all that up at the snap of a finger.
Yeah, but they wouldn't want to do it in one purchase because then.
No, I mean that's I think that's illegal. Like I wouldn't think they would be able to. Like MicroStrategy, when they announce their buys, they do it over time. They can't just like when a MicroStrategy is like, hey, we just bought like 10,000 more Bitcoin.
It doesn't mean they bought it yesterday. It means that they were buying it over a certain time frame.
Yeah, like they were buying it basically over the past quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Elon Musk selling his Bitcoin? What do you think that does for the asset?
I mean, I don't really think that does anything for it, to be honest. Like I don't think like Elon with like Tesla and all that stuff. I mean, I think he's an idiot when it comes to like saying like Doge is an option for Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it now. But like I think, some people look at Elon and like think, okay, Elon's very smart and intelligent. I think he is very intelligent too, and I think he's just saying things about selling Bitcoin. But sometimes you need to sell Bitcoin to like, I don't know, to pay your bills or whatever. And like I think X.
It could also just be Tesla's Bitcoin holdings. And this could just be a way to sell something at a loss for taxes. And that's what Michael Saylor said, and that's what I think it is.
Yeah, and I probably. I mean,
because Elon Musk still owns Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Just because Tesla sold their Bitcoin doesn't mean that Elon Musk doesn't have Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, all right, let's think about how Tesla operates, right? Tesla, basically, they get funded almost primarily through their like carbon credits that they get granted from the government. So even though the government hates Tesla and the green energy stuff, like because they produce electric vehicles, the government subsidizes a lot of Tesla, and so they get a lot of tax benefits because they create these electric vehicles. And if they needed to sell Bitcoin at a loss, that's another brilliant way to get away from paying taxes. And Elon pays a lot of taxes as an individual, but I would assume as a business they don't pay as much taxes as probably as they could be because of like what I just lined out, the electric vehicle taxes and benefits. And like I mean, they were here in Austin, but there's rumors that they're going to go back to California because it's more beneficial to have a plant producing electric vehicles in California than it is here.
Because everybody has to use the electric, because of who the governor is and all that.
Yeah, exactly, because of the policies.
Makes sense.
And so like, okay, it's more expensive for the employees, but at the end of the day, employees are expendable.
I think when you start looking at things from a numbers perspective, right, and you just try to like methodically break down why is this happening instead of acting emotionally, or thinking emotionally, it gives you a much clearer picture as to why things are happening.
100%. And I mean, it's like if you sit back and like really like think about the money situation, right? I mean, there's like 2% inflation, and that compounds year over year over year. So it's 2%.
They tell you it's 2%.
Yeah, so
now they're going to try to condition us to think that 3% is acceptable.
Yeah,
so
but
can
okay,
put a pause on everything.
But still, like 2%. All right, so say since 2000, right? Do you think like every year it's like 2%? All right, then 2 times 2, it's 4%. Then it's 2 times 4, then it's 8%. Like, do you think like since 2000 that you've gotten that much exponentially more efficient when it comes to everything? Do you think like it's actually possible for us to farm food. Like, there's a reason why like the food's fucked up. There's a reason why like everything is changing and getting less and less quality, is because we don't necessarily get exponentially better when it comes to a lot of this efficiency of buildings, food, like all this kind of stuff. Like, it gets to a certain point where growth stagnates, but the money is still going exponentially and growing exponentially and getting more and more, like the money is more inflated and devaluing at an exponential rate. And so, I mean, it's just like over time, that shit's just going to keep happening.
I tell a lot of people that currency debasement and cultural degradation go hand in hand with one another. And
I mean, it's true. Like, look around, right? I mean, the big cities, like America's a big melting pot, but what do they like kind of encourage you to do? Like, right? They want everybody to be accepted, but like, and everything that you say now is like racist. But like, all right, like if you like,
there's another reason for that too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, all right,
when you're Whitney Webb said this on Natalie Brunell's podcast, that when you're a company in $34 trillion worth of debt, with no way to ever pay it back, the only way that the ruling elite and the powerful can ever continue their hold on power is to make the public fight with each other. And in order to do that, you have to spark as much civil unrest as possible, so that when all the chaos and bloodshed ends, A, you're immune, B, your subjects take it out on each other, and C, you come out of it stronger and exert even more control over them.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that with the CBDCs and the infrastructure being laid out.
Yeah. But I mean, they're like killing like culture too. Like,
you don't
right?
care. These people have no culture. These are soulless demons.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, these are people who fuck little kids on Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because nobody knows who's on that client list. So as far as I'm concerned, anybody that's giving me public health advice, anybody that wants me to lower my carbon footprint, anybody that has a Ukrainian flag up that's a government official or a bureaucrat, anybody who thinks 5-year-old kids should be taking puberty blockers, you fuck kids. That's what I think. Like, you went to Jeffrey Epstein's island and fucked a bunch of little kids on that airplane.
I mean,
that's what I think.
Have you seen the body types of the health officials too? They all look like fucking Jabba the Hutt.
They do. I know.
I mean, it's
crazy.
Like, all right, I'm gonna take health advice from this fat slob. All right, dude. Like, I'm not gonna listen to somebody like you or I who's like actually in shape and like, because like, oh, we eat red meat and like that's bad for your arteries and stuff like that. I mean, like, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, it's kind of insane, right? But you know what they're doing to offset that? They're just they're normalizing and glorifying being overweight.
Of course.
That's why the body positive movement is really ramping. It's ramping up like crazy because they want you. Those public health officials, they are there because they actually are models for what the people in power want you to look like. They are literally there because they're not there to help you with public health. Everybody knows that, right? They are there because they are actually models for what they want you to look like. Because when you look like that, when you're on a cocktail of pharmaceutical medications, when you're like eating garbage processed mystery meat, that gets you
hopped up on all the pharmaceuticals, right?
Yes.
Because then you get so
you're
fat.
easier to control. You become easier to control, and you're more likely to move into the 15-minute city and get your eyeball scanned for WorldCoin so that you can eat your cricket burger.
Yeah,
and not starve.
You get fat, you need to get on fat burners or whatever, another pharmaceutical, right? Yeah. You get fat, you get depressed because, we all know that exercise like helps like release some of those endorphins, but people don't like, hey, I want to be lazy. Well, okay, now I'm depressed. Let me get on this. Oh, well, when you're fat, you're more tired. I can't focus because I'm tired. All right, here's more Adderall. Like, I mean, it's all just like connection, and then it's like, all right, well,
we need vaccine passports to protect the most vulnerable. Oh, look at that! All the things that we recommend you doing made you into the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Cool. Scan your forearm to go buy food at the grocery store to make sure that you're up to date on your vaccines.
Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, it's like you need to actually you need to show your vaccine card in order to go eat, to go to grocery store, and it's fucked up.
Totally fucked up. Right. Girlfriend's calling me. Give me 1 sec. Hey, babe, I'm doing a podcast. You all right? This episode is brought to you by Balcones Roofing and Remodeling. Have you been leaving your house outside again? Texas weather can wreak havoc on your home, especially your roof. And if you haven't had it inspected lately, chances are that outside elements could be making their way inside. Trust Balcones Roofing and Remodeling to perform a thorough roof inspection and offer long-lasting solutions. They are the only 5-star rated roofer in Austin who specialize in installing the impact-resistant F-Wave Revia and back all roof replacements with a $20,000 guarantee. To schedule a roof inspection, call 512-937-8805 or visit balconesroofsaustin.com. Love you. Bye. All right. Anyway, it's a staple. My girlfriend always calls me every time we do these episodes.
Oh, yeah?
It's good. I'm in a loving, happy relationship. It's a good thing.
Shout out to Alex's girlfriend.
Shout out to Vanessa.
Shout out Vanessa.
I was on Revenge of the Sis yesterday, and I told her I was going to bring her up, and I never did because we were talking about basically this. So now she gets shouted out on this podcast on the
Shout out
tricycle.
Vanessa.
Shout out Vanessa. I wouldn't be doing any of this if you weren't here by my side supporting me.
Atta girl. Yeah.
A couple that gets woke together stays together.
Yeah.
I'm the reason she never got the death jab. So
Really?
yeah.
Well, good for you.
I said we're not getting the depopulation shot, babe. This isn't happening.
Yeah. I know.
And
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. I know, it's funny because, like, I mean, I'm in Florida, so, like.
Nobody got that shit.
But, yeah, majority of people that I hang around with in my circle did not get the jab, so. But it's crazy. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, because I grew up here, like I said, and a lot of the people that I know from here have the jab, and they call me anti-vax and all that kind of stuff.
Are they still your friends?
No.
What?
They don't
stop talking to you because of
yeah, well, no. So last time I came out here, so I'll tell you a little story. Last time I was here in town, I went out with one of my college buddies and a buddy of mine that I know. Well, I guess we're not buddies anymore, but a former friend of mine who I went to elementary school, middle school, high school with me, and he was at college while I was in grad school with me. Does not talk to me anymore because I'm Republican and I didn't get the jab.
Are you really Republican, or are you just not voting for the fucking senile kid guy?
I mean, you have
the senile old man who sniffs little kids who can't walk up and down the stairs.
You got two options as
falling on his ice cream cone.
Yeah, you got two options now. So
you
I mean,
two options. I'm not with Biden.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
okay.
no worries. But anyway, I didn't get the jab. He got a degree in history. I have my undergrad degree in biomedical engineering and a master's in mechanical. And I did human testing research in college, where I basically would test people's it wasn't like I was jabbing or injecting people. I would test them I wanted to do sports analysis. So in order to test somebody throwing a football, which they do every single day as a quarterback, it took me 9 months to a year to get that study approved. In order to analyze people walking 10 steps this way, turning around and walking 10 steps that way, it took me 9 months to get that approved. And so when I saw the jab got approved within 4 months or whatever it was, I'm like, I'm not getting that because I know the process of how to go through all this stuff, and this got approved way too quickly in order for me to feel comfortable. And this guy who's got a history major was like, dude, you're a fucking idiot. You don't believe in science. I'm like, what do you mean I don't believe in science? I have a master's of science degree. This is, what I went to school for to analyze. And then they just think because a presidential candidate who didn't do any of this stuff, a lifelong politician, told them to do that, they're going to do that. And that's what the craziest thing was. So last time I was in town, I was showing up to a bar with a bunch of my college buddies and former high school buddies. And so the ones that thought I'm anti-vax left before I got there because they heard I was coming.
Yeah. This is in Texas.
It's Austin, where we're at right now.
You went to school though in Round Rock though, or Cedar Park or Leander?
No, I went to Vandergrift High School.
Okay, which is kind of almost in Cedar Park.
So I went to Cedar Park my freshman year, and then I was first graduating class of Vandergrift.
Oh, wow, okay.
So Vandergrift High School, stand up. Go Vipers.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, there was that, and then, too, another situation. At that same bar, we ran into a group of girls that my friend of mine knew. And so, in Florida, my name is Brandon, so I introduced myself, hey, my name is Brandon, let's go, as a joke. So usually gets a little chuckle here or there.
Yeah.
And people remember my name that way. So I go out to a bar, and we meet a group of girls that some of my friends know. And it's a group of 3 of them. So I'm talking to this one girl for a while, 30, 45 minutes. She's like, oh, everybody went inside. Let's go inside. So I'm like, okay. So she introduced me to one of her friends who's there. And she's like, she's like, hey, this is Brandon. He's Republican. That's how she introduces me.
What?
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. So this girl,
were you hitting it off with her well before then?
yeah, and she knew I was Republican, and she was obviously she wasn't because she like made that comment. But I was talking to her for like 30, 45 minutes, perfectly fine conversation with this girl.
Politics or just any?
Nothing regarded to politics.
And she just said out of nowhere he's Republican, out of nowhere.
Yeah, when she introduced me to her friends, and so then her friend was like, literally, first question she asked me, "What's your view on abortion?" And we're at 12 o'clock. And I'm like 4 or 5 Tito's and sodas deep and a couple beers in. So I'm not sober by any means. And I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation with you.
That's a good response. No. The answer is no.
Yeah.
No politics. That's the answer.
I'm like, I don't want to have this conversation with you. Like I have a flight literally at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'm probably too drunk that I shouldn't be like drinking this much. Like, let's not talk about politics at a bar.
And you know that if you try to like actually say, hey, listen, I don't want to talk about this. I just don't want to spend billions of dollars in a proxy war in Ukraine. Yeah. They will just start screaming at you because they want you to talk about abortion, and they will just scream and yell and say that, and that's what will happen.
That's where this story goes. Is she's like, no, like you have to tell me, and I'm like, well, what do you think? Like I'm wearing a cross right now, and your friend just told you I'm Republican, so what do you think my answer is going to be? And you're going to point me into a corner, and I'm not going to like that you're going to point me into a corner. I think it's like you guys are wanting a black and white response, and it's great, and I don't want to have this conversation at a bar. She starts bawling, like in the middle of this bar, like you're the devil, like telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, look, like I'm not trying to cause any trouble here. Like you guys are friends of friends. Like I'm just trying to be here. Like
then they look at you like you start problems at these bars because somebody else freaks out at you because you didn't want to get a shot.
And I hit up.
I'm not causing a problem. I'm trying to drink a beer and enjoy myself.
Yeah, and then I hit up my college buddy and I was like, hey, dude, I'm coming back in town. Who like knew these girls, and that he ignored my text. So I don't know if he's mad at me because of that too. But anyway, this girl walks away, and I'm like, okay, like whatever, like. You know, I felt bad about it. And then her friend who I was talking to, I'm like, look, like, you don't think I'm a bad person, right? Like, I didn't want to have this conversation. And she just kind of came at me. She's like, look, like, you know, you could have said things a little bit different, whatever. I'm like, okay, like, whatever. And she's like, if you apologize, I think it'll go a long way.
Yeah,
and like, just do that.
Did you?
No, so I went up and I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll go apologize. Like, it's not a big deal.
You really wanted to fuck this chick, didn't you?
No, I just wanted. I didn't want to cause any problems. I would have banged this chick too, probably, if like this didn't happen. But anyway, I was like, you know, I went up and I apologized to their friend, and she's like, I don't accept your apology. I think you're the worst kind of person, and I hope you rot in hell. I'm like, all right. And so I looked at her friend and I said, okay, like I told you this was going to happen. I've had this interaction, you know, like played out before in other cities that are not Austin, Texas, which I thought was like a little bit more of a safer place. But, you know, here we are.
It also depends on where you're at. I play my rap songs for like 90% of my customers and they all like it.
Yeah. I mean, like I was on like West 6th Street. So this girl was from California, the one that was crying. So
of course she was. And does she live in Austin now?
Yeah, of course.
She probably shouldn't.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they all like, but like, I don't know. I also like when I go hang out with the Bitcoin crowd, and a lot of them are like from California. I like always make a comment like, "Oh, another Californian in Austin," and they're like, "That's a misnomer." Like, majority of people that move from California do vote Republican.
That is actually true now.
Yeah,
that actually is true.
Yeah,
that in 2019 or 18, no. After COVID, that is actually your friends are correct.
Yeah. So, and I mean, that's the type of people I meet in the Bitcoin space. So when I'm like hanging around with just the Bitcoiners, I don't run into any of those issues where it's like we have to. It's like they want to bait you. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to bait you and they want to talk about this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know how your experience was, but I feel like when I was in college and when I was in grad school,
I didn't have any political state. I didn't have a political stance on anything. I just got blackout drunk and
exactly
thought I was cleaning up, but instead was taking out the trash. But that's another story.
But yeah,
that's for another day. I felt very disconnected. Like I didn't have any purpose when I was in school, and I only started to feel like I had a sense of purpose coming to Austin and driving this tricycle and doing all this other stuff. So.
Well, I mean, it's also like to me, it's like, all right, well. You could have a conversation with somebody and not know their political stance, and like it'd be perfectly normal to have like and it'd be perfectly normal to not know somebody's political stance within the first 5 to 10 times meeting and hanging out with them, and then only after you kind of get to know them, and then it's like, all right, well maybe you believe something.
Also, Brandon, most people's stances are actually a lot more similar than the media makes it out to be.
Yeah.
The only thing different is who they vote for.
Yeah.
Like if you talk to most people on the street, hey, do you think people should have to show a QR code of their vaccine status to go to the grocery store, I guarantee you 90% of the people that you speak to on the street would say, no, that's a terrible idea. Or like, hey, do you think kids should be taken away from their parents if the parent doesn't want to give them puberty blockers?
Well, I mean, it's
like most people, no matter where they stand, are going to say, no, that's an insane idea. Do you think violent criminals should be let out of jail with no bond and then also given very light sentences in the name of equity and restorative justice? Do you think that helps protect public safety and also rehabilitate people? Most people, if you ask them in these really basic terms, are going to say, no, that's a terrible idea. The difference lies in voting, and the reason that they vote this way is because they still aren't. A lot of people are still not fully aware or haven't fully grasped the fact that Democrat politicians are actively pushing this stuff that they disagree that is, for by and large purposes, completely and utterly insane.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still cognitively dissonant and don't really believe that is a staple of a political party right now with how their leadership is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that people who vote Democrat believe crazy shit. They just haven't wrapped their head around the fact that their party believes this crazy shit.
Yeah. No, that's fair. and that too, like the people that I talk to about that that are like on the Democratic side of things, they like a lot of them just don't like the way Trump approaches things. They think he's mean.
Who do you like?
Very political.
Do you like Trump, or do you think there are better candidates?
I mean, I was a DeSantis guy, but I've never seen anybody kind of go.
I like DeSantis better too, honestly. I don't care. I mean, I know.
But
a lot of my friends
his campaign has been the most worst run campaign I think I've seen in a while, because how successful Florida has been since 2020, it's been the most successful state. You would think that because of the way that Florida is run and all that kind of stuff, that all he had to do, he didn't really have to do much to prop himself up. It was before the campaigning started, it was oh, it's going to be a two-person race between DeSantis and Trump. That was the narrative around the Republican Party. Well, now it's DeSantis is basically toast.
Well, it's still early. You don't know that yet.
Yeah, I think it's kind of shut the fuck up. I think it's pretty much even the people in Florida that I talk to that are Republican and would vote Republican are kind of getting out on DeSantis as a presidential candidate.
Why? But
because
look how well he manages Florida. All he has to do is literally say, "I will." Do you like how Florida was run? We're going to do the same thing in the United States.
Yeah, well,
that's all you have to do.
Well, he hasn't done that. That's a problem.
I just think he's surrounding himself with bad people.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
So figure that out. But I mean, if you look at everything from just a results-oriented standpoint.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, he best results.
Okay. You hired somebody that was one of America's frontline doctors to be in charge of public health, okay?
Yeah.
You hired somebody that was actually healthy. Trump not only didn't fire Fauci, but gave him a congressional medal after he created an untold amount of chaos and destruction and misery as a result of his policies.
Yeah.
All right? What else? DeSantis likes Bitcoin, and he's banning central bank. He signed legislation to ban central bank digital currencies.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, when he first came out, started offering NFT trading cards to fund his campaign.
Look, but
Have you seen Donald Trump's crypto wallet?
Yeah. Okay, but
but hold on. Have you seen Donald Trump's crypto wallet?
No, I haven't.
I'm sorry. Will Clemente tweeted this a while back.
Yeah.
That showed Donald Trump's, I think, MetaMask or something wallet. Right? I forgot the name of the wallet, but he screenshot one of Donald Trump's crypto wallet, and it was 80%. It was Ethereum. It was 50 or 60% Ethereum, and the rest of it was just high-yield shitcoins with absolutely no value. Do you trust that guy to stop CBDCs from happening? Do you trust that guy from protecting us against a cyber attack, which is one of the big possibilities of ushering in this new world order that none of us want?
No, but here's where I'll say there's something the reason why I don't think Trump has a good view on Bitcoin or crypto or anything like that, but here's one thing that I'll say as an American that I do like what Trump has said is Trump has said that he doesn't like Bitcoin because he thinks it's an attack on the US dollar, and he's an American guy and he wants the US dollar to be strong. And in my personal opinion, I think in order for the Bitcoin I was actually just talking to somebody about this today, is in order, I think, Bitcoin to succeed and us to go to a Bitcoin standard, it needs to be a very slow slow process that happens over 15, 20 years. That kind of like
that's it. No, like 100 years.
Yeah, well, okay, so all fiat currencies on average like fail after 100 years, right? So think about it, 1971, it's been at maybe even a little bit before that because that was when we officially got off the gold standard. But all right, so say 52-ish years. So that means we have about 48 years left until like the US dollar fails on average. But because we're printing more money, because we have more obstacles and more things like that, it's probably going to be accelerated. So maybe let's say 75 years. So we have like 22-ish years left.
Yeah.
No, wait. Yeah, 22-ish years left of the U.S. dollar's reign, right? So I would want a president who's going to do what he can to strengthen the U.S. dollar to make sure that that dollar is not completely collapsing within the next 10 years, whereas all these and then, like, you know, another president kind of comes in down the line because I think there's going to be some sort of transition period before Bitcoin, before we go to a Bitcoin standard. So I think, you know, we're going to have the U.S. dollar. Then maybe we have some sort of global reserve currency that's backed by something. I don't know what that's going to be, whether that's like, I don't know, backed by oil, real estate, gold, like maybe even backed by Bitcoin, but I don't think that'll be successful. But anyway, like these are some of the possibilities.
Okay, hold on. What do you think that global reserve currency is going to be?
Well, I would want it to be the dollar.
But you said we're going to transition away from the dollar into another global reserve currency that's backed by something else.
And so that dollar would not be the dollar that we know today, right? Because it would be backed by something.
So what if that becomes like a CBDC and we just go into this total dystopian hellscape?
It might be.
And what about the BRICS countries becoming ever more powerful and more allied with each other?
I mean, all the BRICS countries like fucking hate each other. Let's be honest here. Like the BRICS countries as it stands right now, like I think that's more of like a media, like kind of Bitcoin narrative that it's like the BRICS are getting stronger. I mean, like, they're trying to bring in Saudi Arabia, but, like, all right, if you're dealing with, like, do you think, like, Russia and, like, China, like, really trust each other?
No,
or do
but
you
I think that
they're,
this
like,
Ukraine war is driving Russia into China's arms, and it's causing them to have a stronger alliance.
Yeah, so they have a stronger alliance, but China will cut Russia's neck off, like, as soon as, like, and slit their throat as soon as they possibly can. I think that...
And China's also, their economy is collapsing. Russia, by their invasion of Ukraine, you're showing how weak their military is, so... But these countries aligning with each other is actually strengthening the U.S. as a global dominant power.
Well, exactly, and so like I would want a president that is going to do what they can to try to strengthen the dollar, opposed to bringing in policies that I think would potentially hurt the dollar, which I think a lot of the other political candidates would do. I mean, like, let's be honest though.
Hold on, stop 1 second.
Okay.
During Trump's presidency, didn't he not bully Jerome Powell to have zero interest rates for like 4 years for no reason? Then didn't we print 80% of our country's money supply as a result of COVID in 2020 because he entrusted public health to Dr. Fauci, who recommended these lockdowns and closures, which caused us to have to print an ungodly amount of money?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so Trump did print money. That was that was like a big negative, but Biden printed more. Under Biden's, but all right, so like Jerome Powell, right? Like no matter which side of the coin you're on, Jerome Powell was under Trump and is also under Biden, and so he's kind of like implemented the money printing and the QE on both sides of things when it was Trump in office and Biden. So I mean, like Biden also issued stimulus as well.
Biden injecting $7 trillion in a red hot economy was kind of the death knell. Like there was no need for that.
Yeah, exactly.
That was actually very bad. That was really like we could have maybe had a soft landing had he not done that.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you created a lot of the problems that we are dealing with. Unfortunately, people are so cognitively dissonant on bullshit social justice issues like abortion that they're not going to see that. And that's unfortunate.
But okay, so let's be honest here though, right? I mean, like with COVID, if like the globe shut down too, it wasn't just America and Trump. And so a big issue with what happened in America is like supply chains shut off, and like the U.S. was very reliant on China with a lot of these supply chains kind of issues, right? And once China kind of shut down, that shut down a lot of manufacturing when it came to like coming into the U.S. and like a lot of that cheap labor, right? So Trump has always been kind of like a bring jobs back to America, bring manufacturing back to America. That's kind of been his MO since he was president. It's just like you can only do so much in 4 years where you make it like beneficial to do that, right?
Look, I like Trump. I'm just asking tough questions because I want to still live in the United States and not live in China 2.0.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you.
That's why I'm asking these tough questions. It's important that people are not afraid to like be critical and ask tough questions and like point out good things and bad things that people do. And I also think that if you own investable assets, Donald Trump is a phenomenal president to have.
Well,
there is that component.
And I also agree with you too. There's not, if you have a political candidate that you agree with 100% of the things you did, you're a fucking liar.
And you're also an idiot because that's like the opposite of how you're supposed to look at politics.
Yeah,
it's like anti-human and like anti-God too when you think about it.
Exactly. So I mean, like, I'll admit, like, without COVID, I think Trump was doing a good job, but he, Powell tried to raise interest rates, and that was when the cracks started to show pre-2020.
2018, yeah, you saw a lot of cracks.
Yeah. You saw the cracks kind of show, and that's when Trump was like, hey, like, re-lower interest rates. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And, I mean, like, we were kind of running in an environment that allowed things like FTX to kind of run rampant, allowed some of these, like, bullshit companies to kind of pop up. And, like, that was because of the zero interest rate environment. But, like, when you're also running, like, this fiat Ponzi that we are, like, what would you rather have? Like, all right, zero interest rate environment where companies are able to pop up and make bullshit, or high interest rate environment where basically like only rich people that have like these companies are able to pull the strings. I mean,
they're both terrible.
Yeah, they're both terrible.
Yeah,
it's not exactly like right now we're in a stage where the economy is doing not well if you ask any average Joe, because like people are getting like I know a lot of friends anecdotally that are getting laid off and let go of their positions because they're not entry-level positions. They're in a point where they're not management, but they're getting more expensive, and you could probably hire a kid fresh out of college, pay him half as much, and let them try to work and figure it out. And they're not, upper management who's like making a lot of these decisions. So I think like the middle area where I'm at, like if you were kind of in work, would probably be like around that, are the people that are going to be hurting the most right now.
I'm lucky that I have this tricycle and I'm able to still do okay.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if you were working in like corporate America, for example, like that, this is like our age demographic would be the people that are kind of in trouble.
Yes,
and that's the people that want to buy a house. Those are the people that are trying to get married, trying to have kids.
And then you factor in the boomers are about to retire, and most of their money is in stocks.
When the stock market's been doing well?
You're seeing a lot of cues to get a huge sell-off to take place.
Yeah. And then, okay, so, a lot of people our age maybe like decided to go and sell stocks on Robinhood 2020, and they are doing that full time. Maybe they needed to go get a job because it's gotten harder, obviously, because not everything's going up, and now they're unable to find a job. But hey, the job market's doing well, allegedly. But like I know friends that have been searching for jobs that have like pretty good resumes and been searching for jobs for 3, 4, 6 months. And can't find anything. I have a friend that has applied, he told me, to 210 jobs, and he's had 2 interviews.
Well, that's scary. I think that's why they're pushing this whole AI narrative of taking jobs away, because it hides the incompetence of how we've centrally planned our economy.
Well, I mean, and if you look at the jobs numbers, how they're reported, it's all fucking full of shit. It's all survey based. And the surveys, like before it was like, hey, it's your civic duty to reply to these surveys. And like previously there was like a 60 to 70% reply rate. Now it's like 30 and under. And so like ADP is like a very popular kind of HR payroll service. So they help report job numbers. There's like a survey that they send to CEOs, and then there's also surveys that they send to people. And so like there's like 3 or 4 different jobs reports, and they're all not accurate. And the Fed is reacting to these job numbers after they come out.
Because only the people that have jobs that like Joe Biden are responding to it, so it skews the job numbers.
It skews the job numbers, and it's all survey-based, so it's all backdating. So by the time the Federal Reserve starts to pull back and, pull back the interest rates and does the actual pivot, it's going to be too late. Because it's all like you're not going to be able to get like up-to-date data. Like, right, you can go on your phone right now and search Apple stock. You could get that real-time price right now. You can't do that with job numbers. You get it every month or every quarter or whatever it is, depending on like what report you're looking at. And it's all about the previous month, just like CPI numbers, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like all the data that the Fed is using is all backwards looking, and you can project what the CPI number would be. A lot of hedge funds do that the week of. But I mean, like, the Fed like looks at these things and they come and talk, and like you'll see. I mean, we're talking about it on the way over here. Like Jerome Powell, whatever he says moves the market in one direction or the other. So it's like you can't really, I guess, like trust these guys to make these kind of decisions, because like at the end of the day, everybody's human, and like Jerome Powell is going to do what he thinks is right, but more than likely he's going to be moving too slow, and more than likely it's going to be too late. And so, as we're talking like with the soft landing, hard landing, whatever, like
there's not going to be a soft landing.
There's so many cracks underneath the surface now.
You cannot have it's impossible.
But I mean, like in Jerome Powell's defense, like playing devil's advocate, what would he do? Right? I mean, would it go back to the zero interest rate environment?
No, you just pause.
Yeah.
You just pause and keep it as is and say, we're going to pause and kind of see what happens.
Yeah, but like, all right, pause, see what happens.
But here's the thing, though. And this is also why stocks always take a tumble whenever the Fed starts lowering rates, because, on the surface you say, oh, my God, they're lowering rates. Equities are going to boom. But when you really look at it a little bit deeper, wait, why are they lowering rates? Are people not having jobs? Are unemployment numbers a lot worse? Are people struggling more than we think they are? Does that mean they're not going to be able to buy as many phones or gadgets from Apple or Microsoft? What's that going to do to earnings? Why did I pay $300 a share for Microsoft when after we see how much the company's made, it's maybe $230 a share? Let me sell this off in mass, and then this is how little equities crashes start occurring.
Well, also, let's look at it that way, too. Like, people look at analysts who analyze, internal analysts that estimate revenue per quarter, and that's kind of like what earnings come out every quarter for these publicly traded companies. Well, they're saying that there hasn't been a quote-unquote, like, earnings recession yet, but that's because they're projecting their earnings lower. Like, I mean, like, it's just like, all right, well, we're making more revenue, but our CapEx is higher because gas is more expensive, like
manufacturing costs, supply. You got to pay the workers more.
Yeah.
Everything.
Everything's going up, but the revenue is more, but like the amount that the company's making is not. And, there's been kind of this ruse in tech where people paid, their workers in like their stock, right? I mean, Apple does this, Facebook has done this, like all these like kind of tech companies did this where they paid in their stock, so their stock price would kind of like theoretically go up because they're paying their workers this stock price. And like in a sense, then their workers are making more money because, hey, we're going to give you the 200-day moving average of the stock when you started, which I'm just throwing out numbers. But say like for Apple, for example, it was $100 when you started. We'll give you a dividend every quarter because like that's what Apple stock does. It pays a dividend, so you'll get a little bit more, and on top of you'll get stock, right? And then by the end of the year when you report taxes, you have to report how much taxes or how much that went up because you got paid at $100 a share.
Yeah, but if you haven't sold it, then how?
It's not a capital gains tax or anything like that, but it's like reported earnings, reported income, right, for the company of Apple. And so it's this way that
they pay extra taxes to help prop up the company.
Yeah, and it's basically like how all these companies have been like able to get around this. And like for me personally, unless you're working for a company that is like an Apple or like a well-established thing, like getting paid in a company's stock is like probably the biggest scam that there is, because like all these startups will like, hey, we'll pay you $60,000 a year, but we'll give you $10,000 of stock, or we'll pay you $100,000, we'll give you $20,000 of our stock, and then we'll pay it out over time, and then the company goes under or the stock crashes, and then you're absolutely fucked. But during this,
but also if the company blows up, then you make a ton of money. So there is that.
And well, I mean that's how the Silicon Valley kind of boom happened, was like all these people were moving to Silicon Valley to go work at these tech startups, and like you could throw dart at the wall and all these fucking tech startups were working and blowing up, and then your stock price that you got paid in 10x'd, you sell a little bit of that stock, you go buy an inflated $1 million single family 1-bedroom house in San Francisco, and you can afford it, and it doesn't matter because you're getting paid like out the wazoo with all these stock prices. Well, now stocks are like flat or even down. So like how does that, like that's why you see a lot of these states hurting, a lot of these people moving out of California, because like that extra income that they were earning with stock prices, it's not booming as much.
Yeah,
so
and now you can't afford to live there, and then you also look at the crime and everything else that's happening, and it also provides another justification. But there are always deeper layers to this.
Yeah, 100%.
What do you think the catalyst will be to get the Fed to pause?
I think it will be commercial real estate. Well, I mean, I don't even think it's like
Because
commercial.
I posted a little thread that I shared to you on the phone.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you want to dive into that, we can. But I think so. 2008 was a large, like they kind of attribute it to residential real estate. I think this time it's going to be commercial real estate because a lot of the buildings, commercial buildings in like downtown San Francisco, Chicago, New York, a lot of the big cities where people have been exiting. Well, these companies that were there, they don't need these office buildings anymore. And so how a commercial building gets evaluated is 75% of the rent at, I don't know, $2,000 a room or whatever would make this building worth $20 million, for example. Now the rent had to be cut in half just to get people in the door, and it's 25% occupied. So it cuts the valuation of this building in half, and regional banks were the ones that were lending on it. So the regional banking system is like, well, you guys, we have to fucking sell this property
And
because
a lot of people that own these commercial real estate buildings are like smaller cap companies. They may be publicly traded, it may not be, but a lot of smaller cap companies.
Yeah, they're not BlackRock or Vanguard where they can afford this kind of
or even
loss.
if they're not publicly traded, they have the market cap equivalent of a small cap company.
Yeah.
And if they cannot afford to upkeep the building, they got to sell it. Because when everyone sells something, the price will always go lower because there's there's more of a demand to get rid of it. And then you know who buys everything on the cheap?
BlackRock and Vanguard
and all the big hedge funds
Bill
will
Gates.
buy up. Yes, just like he owns that street in Tampa. So
Yep.
yeah, I could see that creating a crash in equities. I also think that you're gonna see certain events that mark like a top. Like you saw the top of the Dow Jones when the Fed sold their shares of stock for moral and ethical reasons in 21.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I got some Facebook, Apple, Microsoft in this brokerage account that I had, and I'm like, yo, we're selling that, and I'm buying my house. Like, I sold it like right almost immediately. I was like, what do I sell? Because I have this TD Ameritrade account that I was messing with,
Yeah.
and I had like these EV stocks and all this other bullshit, and I'm like, maybe I should sell everything and all the crypto and make the down payment, or do I sell the stock? And I just decided, let's just sell the stock and keep all this because over like 10, 20, 30 years, the Bitcoin and the crypto will potentially go up in value anyway, and it's a forever investment, and these older stocks are probably at their top because that's why the Fed's selling, right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and I think that one of the things that they're going to do is, they're always talking about like Congress is going to try to like stop themselves from trading.
Yeah.
Dude, the day that Congress bans themselves from trading stocks is the day you got to run for the hills. Not financial advice, but if it happens like right now, I'm not a financial expert, and this is also not financial advice, but the Dow Jones, S&P, and NASDAQ are at like these huge key support and retracement levels.
Yeah.
If they start doing stuff like this at 786 retracement levels.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, dude. I mean,
that's bad.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, the amount of insider trading is like rampant. And it's not just one party, right? Nancy Pelosi,
Everybody, and Dan Crenshaw, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Nancy Pelosi was probably the most popular, but I mean, it's all like both parties. I mean, it's ridiculous. So you'll see, like AOC, she has a $1 million condo, and she makes allegedly like six figures.
But she doesn't trade. She's smart. She's doing something else.
Yeah, she's getting paid off.
Or maybe her husband or her boyfriend or something. Maybe Riley, the guy that her fiance is the one trading.
Yeah, somebody was calling her a big booty Latina. So
Alex Stein, my buddy Alex Stein did that. Yeah, big booty Latina. Yeah.
That was probably. She probably sued somebody for sexual harassment that wasn't Alex Stein and just said it was and
just got paid.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows, dude?
Who knows? All right. Anyway, we got to wrap up, but. How do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, man. So the best way, probably my Twitter, Green Candle IT on Twitter or X now. But I'm trying to grow the YouTube. So if you guys are on YouTube, just search Green Candle, and you'll find me. So.
All right, Brandon. So excited. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, man. As always a pleasure.
Always a